beginner nail tech mistakes that I used to make so that you don't have to. We're going to talk about how I used to apply and ruin my brushes. So here's me kind of swiping, and like you can see I didn't wait for the powder to polymerize, so everything got super thin, and I went in with the brush like a paintbrush, and so that was the end of my Kolinsky brush. So then I also didn't know how to clean it, so I would take 100% pure acetone and completely ruin my 100% Kolinsky brush and fray that out, and then now more acrylic was getting stuck to it. So instead, today we're going to be using brush cleaner to clean our brush. For the Karens that are about to say that it's just acetone, it's not the same thing. Brush cleaner is made from methyl ethyl ketone, which is a much stronger cleaning agent than pure acetone, and it also has a much higher boiling temperature, and this is why brush cleaner does not dehydrate your bristles and cause fraying over time. A couple of dips, a couple of dabs, and then we're going to go ahead and take that to a clean part of the paper towel and clean it back and forth in the direction of the hairs. Please don't twist it. Please don't go in too tough because it's super, super quick because it is so effective of a cleaning agent. I always like to go back in with some cuticle oil, and I just kind of leave this for maybe a couple hours before I start using it again, just to give the bristles a little bit of hydration as needed. Now, for today's demonstration, we're going to use Tawny Rose, which is from our Warm Tones collection. For our first bead, we're going to pick up a rather large bead and make sure that you always dust off any excess acrylic and you wait a couple seconds, let the powder polymerize before using it. I'm going to have you guys pay really close attention to the way that I'm using my brush and how it differs from the first video clip that I showed you guys. Notice how this entire time I'm barely using that swiping motion. I'm using a very, very feather light tapping motion, and I seem to keep moving my client's fingers around. This is because instead of trying to use my brush to pull the acrylic down when I first start, I'm going to actually use gravity to do most of the work for me. And then at the very end, once the acrylic starts to kind of feel a little bit more hardened, as I feel the acrylic to start losing its motion and liquidness, I can now start swiping. Moving on to our second bead, I'm going to take that same exact principle, and I'm going to start out by tapping to redirect the direction of the bead to flow downwards and use gravity to help me pull the acrylic. For this particular bead, you want to be careful not to overdo it because you don't want to lose out the structure of the apex bead that we just worked so hard to build. Moving on with my last bead, which is one of my favorite beads to apply. This is the cuticle bead. Notice how I'm doing the same exact thing. I'm using my brush to redirect the bead without actually just completely going in straight. I always give it a couple minutes before I start blending. Now, as you work towards the end of this nail, you're going to notice that you get a really nice apex shape, but also we're going to look inside my brush. There you go. The brush is completely clean. There's not that much clogging in here, which is exactly what we're looking for.